So I want to welcome everyone. Thanks for coming to our first Current Topics in Autism series. We want to welcome all of you to this. This is a 6-week lecture series on various topics with the focus on autism. As you can see, we've listed the topics, including today's. This meeting will be held every week for the next 6 weeks, starting at 3 p.m. on Tuesdays. You're all welcome to join any or all of them. And if you don't know what your schedule is and the day comes up and you say, oh, I've got time, just feel free to jump on, even if you have an RSVP. That's perfectly okay with us. So again, I want to welcome everyone. A couple things before we get started. We have a pretty full lecture today. If we have time at the end, we'll offer the opportunity to answer some questions. I would ask each of you to go ahead and put those in the chat. And like I said, if we have time at the end, we'll certainly try and get to as many of your questions as we possibly can. I am recording this, and I'm hoping that we get this uploaded to the Autism Society San Diego's YouTube channel so that you can access those to be continued. I'll try and post that information on Meetup as soon as it's available, so that if you would like to see a recording of today's lecture and future lectures, I'm hoping that we will have those on our YouTube channel for you. So again, welcome to everybody. And oops, it's not letting me advance. Why is that? Oh, there we go. So first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Shirley Fett. I am a family nurse practitioner, and I am a pediatric mental health specialist. I work for Smart Care Behavioral Health Consultation Services, and that is a program through Vista Hill Foundation here in San Diego. And I'll let my colleague go ahead and co-presenter today also introduce herself, Alyssa.
Hi, everyone. My name's Alyssa Label, and I am a Autism Society board member as well. And I work for Smart Care Behavioral Health Consultation Services as the program manager for the program. So I'm very excited. We had done a similar autism series last year, and it was very popular. So we're really glad to bring it back after popular demand. So thanks for having us.
And if you need to reach us, our phone number is listed here. We'll also show that at the end of the presentation as well. As Alyssa mentioned, this is a collaboration between our work program, Smart Care Behavioral Health Consultation, and the Autism Society San Diego. So this is a collaborative effort. I am also a board member of the Autism Society San Diego. I have been for quite a few years. And so this is a really great collaboration that we've developed. The reason that I am involved, just real quick about myself, in addition to being a nurse practitioner, probably my most important role in this life is that I am the mother of now 2 adult sons with autism spectrum disorder. My sons are 28 and 30 years old. Both are probably what we now call level 3 autism. My younger son's still fairly nonverbal. So I've really dedicated my life to learning as much as I can about autism, and certainly trying to give back in the ways that I feel I can. It was really interesting for this particular lecture today. I've actually never gone to a lecture on this topic, so I did some research myself to make sure I had accurate information for all of you. And I really learned a lot of things myself. So I guess the takeaway for all of us is you're never done learning about autism and ways we can work with individuals with autism, be a better family member, caregiver, teacher, whatever your role is. So I really enjoyed preparing for today's lecture. And as I said, I'm still on the journey of continuing to learn new things. Alyssa, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything else here about yourself.
Sure, absolutely. I reiterate everything Shirley says, but I also want to mention that I am here for a personal reason why I work in mental health and try to serve the community, and as well as join the Autism Society board. But I also am an older sister to a 35-year-old brother who would have level 1, is what we would call it now, on the autism spectrum. So this has a special place to my heart, and it's also a topic that has definitely impacted my family and my own brother. So I'm really excited to be talking about it today.
Thank you, Alyssa. So let's go ahead and get started. So as you know, today's topic is obesity and autism. And why is my child? And when I reference child, I just want to say I understand this is also applicable to adults. So why is my child, adult person, eating all the time and gaining weight? So let's explore this a little bit more in detail and see what we can learn about weight management for individuals on the autism spectrum. So the first thing I did is I did look into some research on this topic. I am anecdotally aware that there are weight management problems in individuals with autism, but there was a 2014 study of more than 6,000 children and teenagers identified with autism spectrum, and they found that they are more than twice as likely to be overweight and nearly 5 times as likely to be obese as their typical peers. That was startling and shocking to me. So twice as likely to be overweight and nearly 5 times as likely to obese as their typical peers. So this is a very real problem. Those statistics translate to higher rates of a host of other associated health conditions. We'll touch on those a little bit later today. In 2016, in a review of medical records from nearly 50,000 children also identified with autism in the US, showed that they have significantly higher rates of other weight-related, obesity-related conditions. And those are hypertension, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So, we don't always think about it. We always think, oh, we see fat on the outside of the body, but guess what? Fat attaches to our internal organs as well, and the liver happens to be one of those. So if there's weight on the outside, we have to be suspicious that there's also weight attaching to the organs on the inside, and that's called fatty liver, which can actually lead to liver disease. Research shows there's even more risk of this in severe autism. So individuals that are more significantly impacted with autism are even at greater risk than this data shows for developing weight-related problems, obesity. What they were able to find in another study is that the weight issues, obesity issues, do tend to start at an early age. It's not as common to see somebody who has autism who was really skinny when they were little, skinny as a teenager, and then all of a sudden blew up in, 300 pounds when they were an adult. That's not to say it can't happen and it never happens. Of course it does, but it's typically something we can start to see happening when children are younger. The National Health and Nutrition Exam Survey found that roughly 32% of children with autism, 32%, so a third, aged 2 to 5 years were overweight and 16% were obese. So nearly half of children in that age group, 2 to 5, had weight issues. Half, that's huge. In comparison to children not diagnosed with autism, 23% were overweight and 10% were obese. So again, you can see 33%, which is still a health issue in this country, by the way. It's a third of our little kids have weight issues. But if you add in autism, nearly half had weight issues. And this does tend to persist into teen years and adulthood. So children who start to have weight issues as little kids, often this does linger and continue throughout their life without an intervention. I think this graph is really useful to look at. The green, gold, mustardy colored pyramids here are individuals with autism, autistic children, and the gray are typical children. So you can see here on the left, obesity overall was 82% per 1,000, or 82 children per 1,000, autism 47 per 1,000, no autism. Similarly, high blood lipids, that's cholesterol, what they're talking about, cholesterol, triglycerides specifically, again, quite a large difference and much more prevalent in children with autism, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and liver disease, as you can see. So all of these are increased in autistic kids who have obesity. So why is this happening? I would love to tell you there's lots of people who have done lots of research on this area and they haven't. I would challenge researchers to start looking into this more because it is a health issue and it's really important to address. But I was able to find some information, research-based information. So far, early research hints that people, obesity and autism is different. The causes are different than in the general population. There is, as I mentioned, limited data currently available on this issue. Weight problems in autism seem to follow a specific course. Pounds start to increase at a young age and persist into adulthood. Unlike non-autistic people, where you'll see people that were skinny teenagers, skinny little kids, and then as they hit adulthood, they gain a lot of weight. So the trajectory and the pattern does seem to be different, and it does seem to be that children that do develop obesity, weight problems, and autism, it tends to start young. Many people on the spectrum have heightened senses, We know this. Heightened sight, sound, touch, taste, all of those, plus a fondness for routine, which makes them averse to new tastes and textures and susceptible to unhealthy eating patterns. Sorry, my son's in the background, I apologize. And they're susceptible to unhealthy eating patterns. So I have a colleague, a friend who has an autistic son, similar age to mine, and he was very, very rigid in what color of food he would eat as a little boy. He would only eat white food. Well, what's white? Rice, bread, pasta, jicama maybe. And so when we talk about interventions, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But again, it was really a sensory thing for him. And fortunately, he got around it. But again, you see this not uncommonly in individuals with autism, and that's why they're often rigid and will only eat certain things. In addition, there might be some motor and social impairments along with an affinity for screens that can limit physical activities. So, if you've already got social anxiety, if you already have social challenges, you're just not the kid that's going to get called to play on the baseball team, or you might feel overly anxious being in team sports. So we're going to talk later about ideas for how to become more physically active that might be more successful for children on the autism spectrum.
I want to say that I was actually surprised when Shirley first showed that slide to me about how little research is actually out there, considering that it's such a prevalent problem. So that's just something that I hope changes in the future.
Yeah, I do too. So how and why does this happen? So when autistic children are young and small, if you're a parent, caregiver, person with autism, you are aware that the focus is on maybe getting the person to talk, so lots of speech therapy, or maybe helping the person with learning how to follow structure, be in the classroom, not be an eloper, how to sleep better. All of these things are very real, very common. So those become the focus and the high priority, as well they should, but the issue with weight then becomes less urgent. So while families and individuals may be aware that they're gaining weight, it's like, yeah, that I got bigger fish to fry, so to speak, than dealing with the weight issue right now. I'm more worried about them not being potty trained. I'm more worried about them not sleeping at all. I'm more worried about them eloping, aggression, any host of other things. And so I feel like this is something that if we're aware of it being a potential problem or an existing problem, it needs to move up in the hierarchy of priority for all of us to really address this earlier than later. It is very hard to change eating patterns in an individual with autism who's perhaps a teenager and adult. Let's face it, it's hard for non-autistic people to change their eating and behavior patterns with regard to food. So addressing it earlier, sooner in time is going to be help you be more successful in this person developing more diverse food intake, healthier food intake, and lifestyle. Many children with autism have sleep issues and gastrointestinal problems, which can contribute to weight issues. So you think about a person who is nonverbal. They can't tell you that they're having stomach aches. They can't tell you they're having heartburn or having gas. And sometimes a person, or maybe nausea, they might think, well, if I eat more, I'll stuff it down and it'll make it stop. And maybe in some cases it does help, particularly if you have heartburn or cramping or something, maybe filling your tummy up and stomach up makes you feel better. So there could be an underlying physical medical issue that's contributing to the eating behaviors that we're seeing. So I would just, again, think about this and make sure that there isn't an underlying medical issue. We all know sleep is a challenge in many, many individuals with autism. And it's not just that they're up all night running around foraging for food. There's actually certain hormones that are produced when we're awake that stimulate hunger and make us want to eat. So guess what? If you're not sleeping very much and you're up a lot of the time, that hormone is getting produced, whether it's 2 a.m. or 2 p.m., and it does stimulate hunger. So you're going to see people who don't sleep well. This is true for also non-autistic people, by the way, that hormone is going to be produced more, and therefore there's going to be a higher level of hunger, and therefore eating will happen. Many medications for epilepsy, seizure disorder, anxiety, or depression can cause weight gain. Often individuals are taking more than one of these medications, and of course, cumulatively, they can contribute to weight gain. I'm going to talk a little bit in detail. This is not a medication lecture. We are having a lecture, I think it's week 5, on medications in this arena. So if you want more details on different medications and the pros and cons, side effects, we will try and address those at that time. But I am going to talk in a moment about that a little bit more. And certainly genetics plays a role. You know, we all know this. Even again, just look at your gene pool. If you've got a whole lot of family members who are struggling with weight issues, your child, the person with autism, is also going to have that. So genetics is a part of it. And then certainly there's family and cultural beliefs and habits. You know, in certain cultures, you eat bread with every meal. In certain cultures, you have to have dessert with every meal. So looking long and hard at your own family's traditions, cultural beliefs, and habits around food, and really trying to address what's going to be healthier, not only for this person, but everybody in the family surrounding, again, traditions and customs associated with that. So again, these are just some talking points, things for you to think about. So medications commonly prescribed and their impact on weight. So a broad category are the stimulants. Stimulants are weight neutral or can cause weight loss. These are typically used in people who have autism and ADHD. That's the most common scenario. So it's usually not for autism exclusively. It's usually autism with ADHD, which is a common dual diagnosis. Examples of these medications are Ritalin, Concerta, Adderall, Vyvanse. There are others, but just so you know the names of the common ones. Another group that's often prescribed are what we call the alpha agonists. They are weight neutral, meaning they don't cause weight gain or weight loss. Examples are guanfacine, clonidine, and tunicape. Atypical antipsychotics, you think of antipsychotics for schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, but they are also commonly used off-label in the autism arena, as well as in other areas of medicine. All of the atypical antipsychotics have the ability to cause weight gain and that subsequent metabolic issues, which are high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood sugar, diabetes. From most problematic to less problematic, and when I say problematic, I'm talking about weight gain. Zyprexa is the one that's probably the most likely to cause weight gain and be the worst in terms of weight gain. Then you've got Risperdal, Abilify, pretty comparable in terms of weight issues. They do cause weight gain in many people. Then there's Seroquel, and then of the commonly prescribed ones, Geodon is probably the least likely to cause weight gain. However, understand all of these potentially can cause weight gain, and I'm not talking 5 pounds, I'm talking 25, 30 pounds in some cases. It could be quite significant. Then there's the old, what they call first generation antipsychotics. These are very seldom used anymore because they've got this newer category of atypical antipsychotics. They do cause less weight gain, but they have a lot of other side effects. Most worrisome would be movement disorders like tardive dyskinesia, Parkinsonian syndrome, which can be permanent. So tend to not use these as much anymore because they have that pretty significant side effect potential. These would be the medicines called Thorazine, Haldol, Melloprolixin. And then, of course, there's a whole lot of antidepressants, which, again, individuals with autism can also have depression and anxiety. We know that, and certainly it should be treated. The impact on weight, depending on the medication, is variable. Some can cause weight gain. However, you're not typically going to see the 25, 30 plus pound weight gain with antidepressants like you do with the atypical antipsychotics. The one that's most likely to cause weight gain and is often prescribed to help with sleep is Remeron, mirtazapine, and the least likely is a medication called Wellbutrin. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail on meds, but I wanted you to have a sense of what the cast of characters are in the medication arena and weight issues. So how does autism amplify the risk for obesity? We touched on that just a little bit already, but let's talk about that a little bit more. And I'm going to let Alyssa go ahead and talk a little bit about diet.
Awesome. Thank you, Shirley. Yeah, so there are just a couple of challenges that can happen when it comes to diet. For example, for kids with autism, most children will gravitate towards, and this is not just autistic children, this is kind of children in general, they gravitate towards high carbohydrate, high fat, high calorie items such as chicken nuggets and French fries, but a little bit of what happens with kids with autism is similar to how Shirley was mentioning before, is it's really hard to get that diversity in their diet and get a diversity of foods. And there might be more affinities to certain types of foods that are high carbohydrate, high fat, high calories, such as the chicken nuggets, or like Shirley was saying, those white foods, which can be so tasty, but are typically always pretty dense in calories. Typical children will tend to diversify their diet over time, eventually learning to eat things like broccoli, spinach, and other vegetables, which might not be as palatable for our kiddos with autism. Individuals with autism might find it more challenging to branch out from the high calorie foods and try new foods and go into foods that are just not their known and already established favorites. And exercise is a really big component too. A 2016 survey found that adolescents with autism are 60% less likely to be physically active 3 or more days a week, and 74% less likely to have played a sport the previous year compared to their peers. So, that's a pretty significant difference. And children with autism spectrum disorder are generally less active than their typical peers. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It could be, well, actually, we'll be getting into that in just a moment. Won't jump the gun on us. So in addition to exercise challenges, there's some social challenges. Typical children might not invite children with autism to join them in games or sports teams. A child with autism spectrum disorder may avoid team sports because they don't know how to engage with the other players on the team, or find it uncomfortable to engage with other players on the team, or that they worry about understanding the rules and following the rules. They don't want to get into trouble. Children with autism often have difficulties with activities without lots of repetition, and they have a challenging social context. So that can really affect when it comes to team sports like baseball, soccer, basketball, a lot of the typical sports that you see in for young children and teens.
Right, and I would just say to this is really important to think about, and we're going to talk at the end about how we can avoid our children having weight issues and help individuals that are already overweight lose weight. But I think it's really important, and I'll tell you this not only as a nurse practitioner, but as a mother. Think about what you feel your child would be successful at and enjoy in terms of athletics, not what you want them to be successful and enjoy. If your dream was that your child would always be on a little league and baseball team, that's hard for individuals with autism without the appropriate supports. I'm not saying it can't happen. I will just let you know that I think overall, sports where there's less players, less chaos on the field, like with soccer, is going to be a lot more successful. So really try and step outside of yourself when you're thinking about how to navigate this and what you feel your child would really excel in and enjoy. Maybe it's archery, maybe it's tennis, sports that you wouldn't normally have thought of, but think about those sports. They're particularly archery is very black and white, right? It's very clear rules, clear target. So I just want you to think about that as you navigate this a little bit. Thank you.
And one of our audience members actually just recommended things like swimming and bowling, and that's something that I had a lot of success in my own family.
Exactly.
So great idea.
Good suggestion. Absolutely. Thank you for that. So motor and sensory challenges. So there's a long line of research shows that individuals with autism on the spectrum struggle with gross motor skills such as running, balance, flexibility, and hand-eye coordination, which are skills that you need in any sport. So it's an interesting thing because I would consider both of my sons, they're pretty athletic individuals naturally, but I can honestly tell you, I've seen them trip and fall down. The number of times seriously in their whole life I've seen them trip and fall down is probably only less than the 5 fingers on my hand. Their balance is really good. That being said though, throwing a ball and catching it was really hard for them. So despite their sort of gross motor or balance skills, they did have deficits in other areas. So I think this is really important to figure out for the person that is in your life or that you're working with, and figure out where their strengths and weaknesses are, because don't be deceived by an individual who looks pretty robust and athletic and assume they have all those skills. They might not. And that's really an occupational therapy assessment, and just being around a person and learning about their skill set. Again, sensory challenges is that aversion to new tastes and textures, and also smells, I'm going to tell you, are a huge aversion as well. Certain foods smell a certain way, and person will say, I don't want to eat that. I want to just stick with my chicken nuggets, my French fries from McDonald's, and my Happy Meal. And that's all you want to eat. Some kids will only eat like cheese pizza 3 meals a day. I get it. So again, it can be a sensory issue, not just that they're being obstinate and stubborn. And again, I mentioned sleep issues. Poor sleep has been shown to be a contributing factor to weight gain and autism. I would add, in all people who don't sleep well, there tends to be an increase in that hormone that stimulates hunger, stimulates appetite. And what do you do when you're hungry? You go get something to eat. So our family members, children that are up foraging for food at night, this is probably part of it. Give me a second. I'm going to hand this over to Alyssa.
Sure. And just want to say, I'm seeing what's happening in the chat box. Love all the suggestions for different things that have been helpful for your children or for yourself, for physical activities. We have, okay, we're moving around with the slides just a little bit. Don't pay attention to what's happening behind the corner.
Give me a second, sorry.
No, you're good, you're good. So, just talking about a little bit of what we've been talking about before is, I really want to make it clear, and we've had a comment from someone in here, that this is not a criticism of individuals who have autism, and this is not something to blame individuals that have autism for having some weight issues, because they're working with a lot of different things. They haven't, there's medications that we talked about that can really, really impact, and there's all these additional challenges that they are really working hard through to as far as what it comes to, foods that you want to eat and physical exercises. So this is just something to bring some awareness. This talk is meant to bring some awareness and to also give some helpful tips and tricks later on in the presentation about how to help yourself and your children get through this.
Just real quick before you talk about this slide, Alyssa, there was a reason Michelle Obama had as her mission, get moving, because this is a national problem for many, many children and people. So this topic today was really designed, one, to just sort of increase everybody's awareness of this is an issue, even perhaps bigger issue for individuals on the spectrum, and we need to respect their challenges and figure out how we can help them overcome this, among many other things. So agreed.
Excellent point. Now, why do we care that, kids and young adults and adults are becoming obese? Why is it a big deal? The reason why it is a big deal, and it's a concern we want to start addressing in our community, is because it can have some serious potential consequences. There are some medical issues that can pop up that can impact a person's comfort in life, such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. It is, for a kiddo or an individual who has sensory issues, starting to have to take, injectables and things like that to maintain their diabetes, it's just, that's not something that
Did Alyssa freeze up for all of you?
Yes.
Okay, I'll keep going. Alyssa, you're frozen. I'll keep going. Sorry. So again, just the medical issues, we want to avoid those if we can. And it's easier to prevent them than it is to try and take medications and treat them on top of everything else that's going on. Sleep problems, again, if you're really, really overweight, and this isn't just an autism, it can contribute to a disorder called sleep apnea, which has a lot of consequences to it. Sleep apnea, if you have it, can cause high blood pressure, and it can cause heart disease issues. So again, a really significant outcome of being overweight. Social problems such as bullying and social isolation. This is, again, across the spectrum, very true. Individuals who are overweight or obese will tell you they are subjected to criticism and bullying and social isolation. And we don't want to add to the challenges in autism by adding this another layer of social rejection, social isolation. And then it's just harder to move. Let's face it. When physical impairments, you're just more short of breath. Your joints start to hurt. Running is hard. Moving is hard, and it's just physically a challenge to be overweight. So that can be some of the consequences that we want to try and avoid. So, what can be done? We can affect the weight of autistic individuals. We can help with that. Of course, it's important not to be critical. Again, I don't think anybody's purposely trying to be overweight, but we can be helpful to these individuals. Just like we're intervening really early to improve social skills, behavior, and other aspects, language, all of that, we need to be thinking about weight issues and metabolic issues early on. So if no other reason, and you've got younger kids in your sphere that you're working with or that your family members, really try and prioritize and thinking about keeping your child moving and healthy. I will tell you that if kids are eating better and they're active, their sensory systems do benefit from that as well. There is no single diet or intervention that's going to solve this problem. It's unique for each child or person. Prevention is really the key. That's not to say if a child or an adult is already overweight that we shouldn't do anything. Of course we should, just like all of us. If we're overweight, we should always keep trying to be healthier. But really trying to get ahead of it and preventing this from even happening in the first place is going to be a really, really good goal and a good thing to work on. Improving sleep, boy, don't we all wish that was true and as easy as can be. Sleep issues tend to be chronic and often ongoing, but really, again, in terms of prioritizing schedules and your life, really working on sleep issues to try it and help the individual have more regular, consistent sleep. Increasing activity. I'm going to talk about some opportunities that are available to all of us here in San Diego for modified sports and maybe some coaches that have expertise working with individuals with disabilities so that our family members can be successful. Of course, eating healthier, that goes without saying. There's all kinds of really interesting cookbooks and recipes out there on ways to trick your kids to eating vegetables and things like that. I know though, with autism, my kids included, it's like they have hyper taste buds and hyper smell. Even if you try and sneak something into a favorite food, it's almost like they know it. But it's worth a try to work on trying to incorporate healthy foods into the diet. Try to avoid using food as a reinforcer for behavior management. My sons were in the early stages, sorry about that, in the early days of ABA, so candy, cookies, Oreos, things like that were commonly used as reinforcers. I think probably at some level they still use food for reinforcers. Try and think of something besides food as a reinforcer if you're doing behavior management, ABA type services. Maybe it's letting them watch a YouTube video for a minute as the reinforcer, looking at a Disney book for a minute, playing with a Pokemon card for a minute, something else that's highly motivating that isn't food. Really try and think about what you can use if you are using food as a reinforcer. Some ideas on meal times. Again, I mentioned this earlier, try and rule out any physical problems for the eating behavior. Are they having heartburn, cramping, upset stomach, that kind of thing? Let's think about that first. Ease into mealtime. I think, first of all, it's on the list here, have a set time for meals. I think that's really important. When you think about, particularly those of you with younger kids, and even my sons, they really still thrive on a schedule. They like to know what's next. They like to know what's going to happen. Incorporate snacks and meals into that schedule. Your child will be less anxious and maybe less foraging for food if they're like, oh, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and then I get a snack. Oh, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and after ABA or after working with mom, then we have mealtime. Add that into your schedule. Having the knowledge that food is coming will make them less anxious about it. We know it's coming. We know we're preparing meals. We know we're getting food. But remember, a person with autism really thrives on structure, and every day is a different day for them, even though it might not be for us. I'll never forget when my kids were younger, they said, just because your child's been to one Target store with you doesn't mean, and you go to a different Target store, it's like starting over again. They think it's a brand new place. Same thing with every day. Even though you maybe eat dinner at 5 o'clock every day, you need to have a schedule, and it can be really helpful to ease some of the anxiety around eating and when I'm going to get to eat my chicken nugget, pizza, whatever it is that they're waiting for. Okay. Try and work on sitting together at a table for meals. I think if you can get your family member, person in your life to sit at the table for 30 seconds and then go, great, good job. You know, have the plate there, have the food there. Maybe they'll sit for 30 seconds. Don't make it into a war. Don't make it into a battle. Don't make it into a negative. Try and make it into a positive. Say, great job, good job, you know, and gradually build up, just like you do everything else that you're trying to teach them. We're trying to teach them how to have healthy, structured eating behaviors. Try and build acceptance for new foods gradually. I, like most of you, have children that were very, very picky eaters. If you had told me when they were 3, 4, 5, 6 that they would be eating fruit and have the diversity of foods that they eat today, I would have said, there's no way. So this is a long game. This isn't going to get fixed in 6 months, but you've got to start developing strategies and introducing foods a little at a time. My 28-year-old son just really started during the pandemic because we were able to work with him a little bit more closely. My husband and I just now started really eating grapes and tangerines this year. He never ate them before. So we're thrilled with that. Believe me, those are the only 2 fruits he eats, and we're ecstatic. So don't make it a battle. Don't make it punitive by saying you've got to eat your broccoli or you don't get your chicken nuggets. Put it on the plate. Maybe they just need to look at it. Maybe they just need to touch it. Maybe they just need to smell it. Maybe they don't eat it for 2 or 3 months. But introducing it, ease into it, try and build up acceptance. So it will come. It will. It's just a long game, not a short game. Again, have a set time for meals. You can try this trick. Take the food out of their bread boxes or containers. So let's say you want to try and have them eat. Now they've got all sorts of vegetarian options for, like, you know, chicken nuggets. They got veggie nuggets. They've got different kinds of things. And our kids are very visually astute most of the time. So if they see that you're taking the chicken nuggets out of a veggie nuggets bag, they're immediately not going to go, oh no, I'm not trying that. So you may want to not have them see what it's packaged in, what you're storing it in, so that maybe they think, oh, this is a real chicken nugget, because they didn't see the packaging. Something to consider. And as I mentioned earlier, encourage your child to explore, play, and just, if you need to touch it, feel it, get the texture, get comfortable with that, let them do it. Again, think about this as not the same as you and I just like, I don't like it. This could be a real sensory aversion for them, and we need to help them work through that.
Yeah, just like Shirley was saying, and sorry, I got disconnected. I'm back. But slow and steady wins this race. So gradual, meet your child where they're at, and build it in nice and slow. Don't get discouraged because it takes forever. Because much like Shirley said, my brother is still getting new foods at 35. So, everyone is a victory. So enjoy them and celebrate your victories.
So there are a number of local resources available to all of us that can support the efforts for helping our kids be healthier physically as well as nutritionally. The San Diego Regional Center, you can ask for a nutritional consultation, and they have dietitians that they work with, and you can request that through your case manager at Regional Center and ask them, I really want them to come in and help me work with how to introduce healthy foods, what's appropriate foods, that kind of thing, and sort of maybe assess what the aversions are and help work through some ideas on how to help your individual child. So you can get a consultation for that. If the person's getting ABA, and certainly adults get ABA as well as kids, so whoever it is, work with your ABA team on food tolerance and flexibility goals. Again, sort of, maybe it's looking at pictures of new foods. Maybe that's where you start. Maybe it isn't even the smell, taste, texture thing. It's like just looking at new foods, and then you go, okay, let's look at the picture of an apple. Now let's have a real apple. Sometimes they just have to touch it. They have to handle it. Let's smell it. Let's put our tongue on it. It can be those kinds of things, and that can be an ABA activity to work on. We talked a lot about getting more physically active. We know that's true for all of us. Sorry, my son's in the background. I'm going to let Alyssa talk about the activities, and I'll mute for a second while he's out.
Sure. So just finding, we live in a great city, San Diego. If you're in San Diego, we have a lot of different activities that are put on with, just our Autism Society. We have a couple of activities that are similar to our surf camp, our swimming lessons. The surf camp is for kids who are 5 or older. The swimming lessons start at 3 and older. There's also monthly pool parties and monthly gymnastics. We haven't been able to have those recently just because of the COVID pandemic, but we're hoping to get some of those started up, as the world is opening up. We're hoping to get that opened up too, but normally those happen at least once or several times a month. So the nice thing about checking into these activities and programs is you're going to be working with people who are either have training or are just sensitive and respectful of autism and all the beauty and glory that it brings. So it's important, to find some of these areas where you're going to feel more comfortable going to when you're getting your feet wet. And it's also a great time to be able to build your social experience as well. There are different sports for that you can do. The sports for exceptional athletes, we have their website listed there. They start for ages 5 and older, and that's different sports teams that you can join and enjoy. There's the Miracle League. We also have their website, and that starts for individuals who are 5 years old and older. And of course, Special Olympics, that is in San Diego, but also in many different cities all around the US. And that they have a variety of different sports events that kids can enjoy and be a part of that aren't necessarily team events, which can be really helpful. And that's for 8 years and up. Also, San Diego Park and Recreation Therapeutic Recreation Services is just a neat website. I recommend everybody go there and give some of their activities a try. They have different meetups that happen throughout. And the nice thing about that is it's, physical activities to do, but it's also getting out in nature and enjoying because, San Diego is just a beautiful location to go out and be able to do things like walk around. And when people think about exercise, sometimes it can be a little daunting to think about putting, a more traditional thinking exercise, but, just getting out and walking and just doing something, like enjoying some sunshine and enjoying the nature that we have in San Diego can be very helpful.
And I would let you know that this is by no means an exhaustive list of all the different recreation programs. These were just some examples I wanted to give those of you who are unfamiliar or are interested in pursuing sports and athletic activities, that this is a short list. You can contact us at Smart Care. I've got a longer list of even more. There's tennis, there's dance classes, there's karate, there's all kinds of really cool things adapted for individuals with autism. So this is just a kickoff, I think, for what might be available to you. And we're always happy to help make suggestions for certain things you might like to do that are athletic. So in conclusion, I think it's important to recognize how much medical, psychiatric, mental health, and social issues interplay to impact the health of autistic children and adults. It is really important that we pay attention to all of these aspects because it's critical to ensuring optimum outcomes for health and well-being for their lifetime. My sons participate in swimming lessons, and it's mostly just and I know there's some people here today that also have their kids going swimming lessons. It's the adaptive swim lesson program that we do run through the Autism Society. And they've been going for probably 15, 20 years now regularly. And it's just a really great thing for them because it keeps them fit. It gets them out of the house. There's social engagement when they're at swimming lessons, but it's also something they can do successfully because let's face it, it's a one-on-one sport, swimming. So again, it goes back to what I said earlier, really try and think about what your child, adult, family member really would thrive in, what they really need, and try and gravitate towards those kinds of activities because I think it's something that not only ends when you're 18, but it's really something for a lifetime. I will let you know that my sons are getting ready to go back to their day program, and we've reactivated their Mission Valley Y membership, and I'm planning on having their day program also taken to the Y so they can ride the exercise bicycles a couple times a week. So there's all kinds of things like that. You can be creative and just access things, as Alyssa said, in our community that are available. There's lots of really terrific opportunities. Okay, Alyssa's the chat monitor. Are there any questions in the chat that we have, Alyssa?
All right. Well, I want to first apologize because when I got disconnected, it erased all of my chat questions, but I will remember some of them from memory.
Oh, you know what? I can see them. Hold
You
on.
can? Okay, great. I do know that there was somebody that was asking a question about regurgitative behaviors and if that was perhaps a indicator of OCD, if I remember correctly.
Let's see. Let me look through real quick. Okay.
But I am loving all the suggestions. If you guys haven't gotten a chance to go check out the chat box, go and check it out because you guys have had some great suggestions. I'm seeing the one about the trampoline in the backyard.
Okay, so here's one. My son eats a lot and loves to mix up different spices to get a kick. And I will tell you, my son would eat like Heinz 57 sauce straight and would eat like Flamin' Hot Cheetos and all of that. And he ended up getting an ulcer. So, and again, this is my nonverbal. So while they may love it and it's okay, a lot of people can get away with that. Our children don't necessarily have the sensory boundaries and knowing when to stop some of these things. So we, as the person in their lives, that need to sort of regulate that. And you know, the question is, he eats late and he'll regurgitate food. That's a problem with reflux. This is, if you eat late at night and you eat spicy foods, that's a huge, huge contributor to gastric reflux. It could be an obsessive compulsive thing. It could be an anxiety behavior. Let's face it, when we're anxious, you think about what you do when you're anxious. Some people do gravitate towards food if they have anxiety. So OCD is an anxiety-based behavior. I wouldn't say gravitating towards spicy foods is OCD. OCD is more needing to do things exactly the same over and over and over again. But yeah, definitely regulate the types of foods that they're eating because it can contribute to stomach issues. How does one encourage a high-functioning 25-year-old autistic person to reduce his weight without creating self-esteem issues? I would try and identify what that person enjoys and finds fun. And if it's video gaming, which it is for many of them, so maybe then you start getting going to play laser tag or do things that get them moving, that just find out what else is interesting to them. So, you know, it's like when kids are younger, we say you use a reinforcer of something that they really, really enjoy. It's harder as an adult, I agree, because they can self-direct and say yes or no a lot easier. But I think there's a really good group called Limitless Adventures. I did not include it on this. They're a new nonprofit in San Diego. They're free and they do hikes once a month. And the group has been typically adults who have mild autism, although my son goes with my nonverbal one, and they go on a really easy hike and then they hang out afterwards and they socialize. So if he's interested in trying to meet other people or just get outdoors, I think those are the things that, rather than saying, let's do this so you can lose weight, really trying to make it fun and pleasurable, either for social engagement or for whatever activity he enjoys doing.
I'm sorry, did you say that was through, what organization was the hiking?
The name of the nonprofit is Limitless Adventures. And I think, Alyssa, I don't know if you're able to Google it and you can put it in the chat box, their website, we'll look for it. If not, you can contact me afterwards, I'll send it to you.
I'll do it right
They
now.
also have a Facebook page. So you can go on there and it's free. And they, like I said, they do the hikes once a month. Really nice group, young people, probably similarly in their 20s, early 30s is the organizers. And we've gone to the last couple ones. It's been nice. It's just been easy and comfortable. So that would be a thought on that. Luvox for OCD and anxiety. Yes, that's a medication. Somebody asked if I missed the presentation, will it be available offline? We're going to try and upload this again to our Autism Society YouTube channel. Baseball, mentioned that. Yes, that's Miracle League and some other groups. Cycling and tennis, again, good choices. Why? Because there's not a whole lot of other variables. Bicycling is very linear, right? You get on your bike, you pedal, you go from point A to point B, and it's a singular person. It's not an interactive team sport, but fitness related. And tennis, similarly. Ice skating, Carol Tamaki, who's here, and swimming. Yes, she goes to swim lessons. We see each other every week. So ice skating, swimming lessons, these are all wonderful suggestions. Again, are you getting a theme here? It doesn't require a lot of interaction with other people, but it's still social. So when our kids are at the pool or when they're ice skating or when they're riding bikes, you're still around other people and you're out in the community. So I think there's really a lot of benefit to that. Let's see. Swimming, yes, again. Track and field, same idea. Swimming, bowling, bocce, ping pong, kayaking. Special needs basketball in San Marcos, yes. And Sports for Exceptional Athletes runs a basketball as part of their offering as well. So they do have a basketball program. So if team sports are in your future, they work with individuals to help them be successful. They do soccer and some other things. Anyway, has anybody here made eggplant lasagna? No. Okay. Do you know of any groups that you can point me to for parents of adult individuals with autism? The Autism Society San Diego monthly runs and it's a support group for adult autism family members as well as individuals on the spectrum. If you go to our meetup site, you will see that there. So yes, we do offer that and we focus on adult related topics. Gym night, I know, like somebody says, we miss the gym night. We do too. We get it. You get why we haven't been able to do it. Keep your fingers crossed that that'll come back, but we are hoping to do that again. Everything's free right now at Therapeutic Recreation Services. Good to know. So that was San Diego Therapeutic Rec. Someone commented on that. Yes.
And they have, someone else commented that they have different Zoom classes and adaptive boxing classes and things that are all free right now. So
yeah, Zoom is a good one too. Zoom is always a fun one too. That's a good one for people to do. ARC of San Diego had pre-COVID, yeah, they have their wellness center. So that's another option. Bowling, as people said, trampoline. We've had a trampoline in our yard, still do to this day since our kids were age 3. I love the trampoline, fantastic. Yes, that's a good option. Yoga, dancing, boxing, all good suggestions. So yeah, I think we got through the majority of them. Yes, and then there's a program, I don't know if they're going to run it this year, called I Can Shine. It's teaching individuals with autism how to ride a bicycle. My kids did that as well. So yeah, so lots of really good options. I just want to thank everybody for coming today. I really appreciate your participation, your interest in this topic. We are going again to try and post this on YouTube for all of you, and we will be back next week with talking about autism and siblings. So we welcome all of you to join us for that meeting as well. Thank you, everyone.